Join me as we talk all things true crime.
Made contact and shattered.
The missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in and that the mother has went through a wall, came out, now they can't find her.
Chad, where are Lori's kids? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say?
4 were stabbed multiple times and were likely asleep during the attack. Some had defensive wounds.
Most of them had just like one that was the lethal stab wound.
Oh, what a tangled web we weave. Once I told a lie, and I told my family, I had to keep lying.
What's your, is it deemed?
We haven't cleared anybody.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for a very random Saturday afternoon live stream. There is a lot of stuff coming out with Micah Miller. She had her celebration of life ceremony recently since we last spoke, and just a lot of other developments that I kind of just want to talk through with you guys. We went through the timeline of her last day on Earth, and everyone just has a lot of questions. A lot of you guys were telling me, like, no, don't take it as surface level. This goes much deeper. There's much more to the story. So I took it upon myself to kind of sit back and ponder some things, and I've come up with an alternative theory other than the one that we spoke about last night. Now Tuesday night. The other night, we just pretty much went through the facts that were presented to us by the sheriff's department and the media. And we came to the conclusion, well, at least I did, that it seems as though her husband pushed her to do this. It's unfortunate. But now that, I've heard from, a lot of people like, no, don't just take it as that. There's more to this. I've started to look at things from a different angle. But first things first, thank you all for being here. Like I said, hello, Sherry, Jay, Johnny's here, Mark is here, and Melmac. Everybody just hit that like button if you don't mind. I'm curious, before we start digging in, who thinks that there's more to the story than just he pushed her to do this by tormenting her and all that? Do you think that there is another hand in all this, or do you think that there's, something more going on? Let me know in chat right now. I'm trying to get a feel. Hi, Tony and Letitia, everyone else who's joined here. Thanks for being here. Okay. Yeah, Lily. And that's, I kind of want to put a little disclaimer or trigger warning. Like, this stream is going to involve DV, and I believe you're correct when you label him as a narcissist. So just be aware of that. And of course, this is going to be a subject matter that involves her doing this to herself. Of course, I can't say that word on YouTube, but I think you guys understand. And I don't think you guys would be here if that topic was too hard to discuss. So here we are. Okay. So from what we know, which isn't a lot, it feels like she may have had some kind of dirt on him. Yes. Something to do with taxes, shady businesses, dealings that he was doing with church money, etc. He did push her into deleting herself, but there's much more going on. Yes. And it's more than just what we thought, what we discussed. I think there is more to the story. We just have yet to find out. Oh my goodness. The father and son are suspicious. It is believed Micah began collecting evidence and documentation for the church abusing children and human. Wow. That's crazy. I'm not surprised, unfortunately. Yeah. And I hate having to censor, but I don't want, them to take my channel down because I'm not following the guidelines. So self-deleted, I guess we'll have to use. I'm curious where the source of this is from, Lulu. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm not saying it is true, but yeah, I need to know more about all that. Embezzlement of church funds is what I think, maybe to fund a habit or vice of some kind. Maybe he hired a hitman to make it look like a deletion. Yeah. A lot of theories out there. And of course, we're going to go through some stuff that's just fact, and then we'll get into other things as well. So bear with me. This is going to be very free flowing. And so apparently, from what I'm hearing, the pastor husband, I know people get annoyed when we call him pastor, but I think that we should highlight that his church needs to see him for who he is. JP, maybe we'll call him that here and there, whatever comes flowing out of my mouth, really. But apparently, JP has given a TikToker video evidence of, Micah in, a bad light and medical records and stuff like that, and is allowing this TikToker to like post about it. I haven't seen directly the post, but I know that this was one of them. So I'm just going to share it again. This is a warning. This might get anyone triggered who has dealt with DV. And hello, Alex Erickson. Good to see you. Sherry's here. Adrian's here. All my friends are here. Yeah, he's a crook. Right. Fake pastor.
Gonna get in.
Micah, stop. Stop. Calm down, Micah. Stop.
Give me my purse.
Stop. I don't have your purse. Stop.
You don't have my purse?
Nope. Stop, Micah. Please. Stop, Micah. Stop.
Give me
Stop. I don't have your purse.
So that allegedly was some confrontation between the two that JP has leaked to a TikToker. And this TikToker has done nothing but kind of bash, like, look what JP had to deal with. And the fact that we have somebody on TikTok standing up for him kind of goes into my theory, my alternative theory that, and again, I'll go deeper into it later, that he easily could have manipulated somebody from their church to believe that, he was the victim in the situation. Could he have, convinced somebody to help him carry this out? I think that, I'm not saying it's true. And I want to make that clear. I'm not saying that this is a theory I believe. I'm just saying, for people who think that there's more to this, I'm looking at it from different angles. Could he have manipulated somebody from the church into believing that he's the victim, she's the crazy one, he needs help in this situation, and they were willing to help him? Again, not saying it's true, but again, and then this is CCTV footage. Apparently it's from a few days before her passing. You guys are kind of on board with that a little bit. Yeah, BS. He had her purse, just turned the camera on to get her on camera, on video acting out. I believe so. And, something that EE Caroline said, and I saw she joined chat, good to see you, that he was, oh, that's a good theory too, Thistle. The necklace thing, she was at the pawn shop. She most likely pawned it. The thing that I'm seeing, though, is JLR posted the receipt from the pawn shop, and there's nothing on it talking about a trade-in or exchange. I'm looking at the receipt right now. We'll pull it up on Twitter. But yeah, it just shows that she straight up bought it. It says, we obtained a copy of Micah Miller's gun purchase receipt from Dick's Pawn Shop in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. $499 for the Sig Sauer, $25 for the ammo. And then he shows the receipt. Hold on, let me just turn my camera on. I didn't want to be on camera. Actually, it's dark in here. I'll just show it on Twitter. But yeah, there's nothing on the receipt that's talking about a trade-in value or anything like that. So I'm just really curious about why it shows the necklace in one of the pictures and then it doesn't show it in the other one. So this was from a few days prior, and it's at a gas station. So let me just play it all through without interruptions.
Gonna get in.
Micah, stop. Stop. Calm down, Micah. Stop.
Give me my purse.
Stop. I don't have your purse. Stop.
You don't have my purse?
Nope. Stop, Micah. Please. Stop, Micah. Stop.
Give me my
Stop.
purse.
I don't have your purse.
Very short clip. Now they did upload. Hi, Roxanne. Good to see you. All the current cases prove that alternative angles are possible and people can be swayed to believe things one way when truly the opposite. Good theory, ATS. And, you know, I really started working this out after we had our live stream the other night because I was just, there was so much going on in my head because I wasn't seeing what you guys were seeing. A lot of people in the last live stream we did were like, no, this is suspicious. No, there had to be someone else there. People came out with the theory that her 911 call, although it sounds like her voice, was created by AI. Now, how can we discount that theory? We really can't. You know, there unfortunately are ways to replicate people's voices nowadays, to use her phone while using another phone up to it and, you know, having the app run and have that AI voice work. Again, I'm not saying that that is what it is, but I am saying that, you know, I can't say that that is impossible, you know? So did she buy the gun or him? She did. Her name is right on the receipt. Let me share my screen. So unfortunately, this isn't the most organized live stream. It's kind of all over the place, but bear with me. So this is the memorial service. I'm not going to play the service. This is 35 seconds. Let's see what.
She'd stop. We'd be on the way to like a show or something. She told me to take it. She was so creative. Everything she did was so creative. What's the next picture? What's the next picture? She'd stop. We'd be on the way to like a show or something. She'd say, stop, I gotta get a picture. I said, we're gonna be late. She said, I don't care. What's the next picture? Next picture. So one of the things she did for me is I'm a comic guy. She told me she was so creative. Everything she did was so creative. What's the
spoke at the memorial service. Now, again, he has not been charged with anything. We got to keep that in mind, but her family is pushing for some sort of charges. We've talked about how there could be civil liability, you know, wrongful death, if they are able to prove that he, in fact, you know, pushed her to this.
Didn't hit me. I thought she was going to wake up, you know. Since, of course, we know she's not here and in heaven, and she's, you know, worshiping and enjoying, and probably hadn't even had time to look down here yet. But I got this lay next to her body and spent time with her body about 4 times this week, and each time it still didn't hit me. I thought she was going to wake up, you know. I even tried to raise her from the dead one time this week, and that morning, actually, I went to the mall later.
I'm sorry, I just have to pause it there. This is where I get concerned with him and his, you know, pastor title and the narcissistic mentality that I believe he has. He just said, I even tried to raise her from the dead. Now, for those who know the Bible, well, you don't even have to really know the Bible, but I'm just thinking about the story Lazarus, where Jesus really does raise somebody from the dead. Only Jesus and God can do certain, you know, if you believe that. Why would he think that he is, you know, in line with Jesus and God's capabilities? It's just a huge red flag to me. Why would he think? And why are these people, you know, following him? People are still supporting him. Like, you realize that he's a false prophet.
Bought me this dog tag, and the chain broke, so I went to the mall to get it fixed. And I saw a female about 20, 30 feet in front of me, and she was wearing one of Micah's dresses. And she had the same tattoo Micah has on her arm and the exact same hair. And out of just instinct, I screamed, "Micah!" And the girl turned around, and it was one of her sisters. I thought I raised her from the dead. She's alive, you know. But I can't wait to see her again one day. And of course,
And the fact that he thinks he'll be going to heaven someday. Again, I don't want to play her whole memorial service. I do want to read the comments on it, though. Those were just a few clips. Let me find the receipt that's been shared. Here, JLR has found a traffic ticket from him that he is fighting. It was from April 15th. He ran a stop sign, and he's requested a jury. Hold on, let me just actually go through JLR because he shared the receipt. So here is the receipt. Now, it doesn't say anything about trading in a necklace. Just pretty much says that she used a debit card, $47 in tax. The total was $571. And her name is right there on it. And it was bought at 12:32 p.m., April 27th. So that's where I get confused when we're looking at the pictures of her at the pawn shop given to us straight from the sheriff. Hold on, let me find. I mean, did anyone else see this, or anyone else, notice? Okay, yeah, here's more. I believe that's from the gas station and the pawn shop. People have asked about her changing her clothes. So here, I don't know if we can see the necklace. It's hard because obviously the footage isn't the most clear because it's from CCTV footage. I don't understand, why we're not seeing the necklace in some of these images. And I have no theory for that. I really don't. If you guys do, let me know. No necklace. Appears to have no necklace. Again, she looks very distraught. Some people don't even think that that's her. Then this one, she's smiling, and you can see the necklace. I don't know. It's just weird to me. I don't see the necklace. That is wild. Hi, Scott. Good to see you. Grainy video it is. Yes, and you know what, Caroline, I've been thinking about, because you mentioned that he's a long-term planner, been thinking about that to fit into this alternative theory. So bear with me. We will get to it. I do think that's her. A lot of people are saying that's the first ex-wife because it looks like her. Oh. I really have no theory about this necklace. I thought Thistle would have, cleared it up. Hi, Criminality. Good to see you. BGOG's here. I thought Thistle would have cleared it up by saying, maybe she traded it in for the gun, but you would think that that would be somewhat mentioned on her receipt, that there would be a price reduction from the purchase, and it wouldn't have all been charged to her debit card. And it seems to me that it was all charged to her debit card. She paid for that itself. Again, it is grainy. Maybe it's just not showing up in the grain because it's a screenshot. Like, it's very pixelated. So maybe it's just hasn't been loaded all the way, I guess you could say. Yeah, I was thinking that too, because he wears his days later. They probably had matching ones. Maybe she took it off in this video and put it in her pocket, and we just don't see that. It's just weird. It's just very weird. He legit thinks he's the second coming of Christ, and none of them know how much of a false prophet he is. Very worrying. And here he is taking their money. You know, the tidings, or is that what it's called when you pay for at your church? In fact, this group has a clip of him speaking about something on some podcast. It's in a Facebook group, so a private one, so I can't really share my screen. Let me see if I can just find the clip. Bear with me, guys. Do it this way. The fact that he sold those videos, well, I don't know if he sold them, but he gave those videos to a TikToker to paint Micah in a bad light just shows the length that he will go to spin his narrative, which is very troubling. If it is what it is, then you shouldn't have to do those, tactics. Of course, I can't find it right now. Okay, let me just share my screen. I want to read the comments from the memorial. So again, necklace or no necklace, and then necklace. Don't know why. Straight from the PDFs from the sheriff's report. Okay, so this is from the church, Solid Rock. Again, 35 minutes. It's her celebration of life. So I feel weird playing it, especially, I have a monetized channel. It's just, it's her memorial service. It's a little different than just talking about the case. So if you want to watch it, go for it. But the man who brought her to Kay herself stands up and speaks of all things she did to him. I'm sorry. She did for him. Hold on. This man is so close to never being able for redemption. John Paul Miller, get on your knees and repent for how you treated this woman. What husband has to read prepared notes for his wife's memorial? An evil, uncaring, unloving liar. That's who, in my opinion. Did y'all notice a passive-aggressive insult in Micah in his speech? This was hard to watch after previous sermons of passive-aggressive bashings of Micah, the random fake crying, preaching 2 sermons, then announcing she's gone. The list goes on. This is just wild. Rest in God's arms, baby girl. Me, I. He's disgusting and so fake. He cares about himself more than anyone else. I hate this beautiful woman had to die for his abuse to come to light. I don't know you personally, but hundreds of people cannot be wrong. I couldn't stand watching a couple minutes of your lies and stories about a woman you drove to this horrible ending. Stop the nonsense. Most people see right through you. May God rest her soul, and I pray for peace for all of her family and friends. Why did he not see these great attributes while she was alive? Why can he not hold his head up and look at the congregation? What a beautiful life destroyed by such a con. Look at all she did for him. And what did he do for her but drive this beautifully talented angel to an earthly death, all in the name of Christianity? I would there's some typos, to stand in his shoes on Judgment Day. Written memorial about the lady at one time that trusted him and believed in him, helped raise his 5 children. Justice for Micah. The only thing about this video is it compiles lots more evidence and raises more questions. Did JP see her body 4 times and think, looking at her with the wound she'd sustained in her head, did the sister he thought was Micah, who he, not God, raised from the dead, hear him call out Micah to her? This was so uncomfortable to watch, seemed so insecure, and felt like it was mocking and condescending Micah's character. Utterly heartbreaking and profoundly odd. Hey, JP, you're going down. What happens in the dark comes out in the light. You are not a man of God. This is such low level of blasphemy. This man literally has no shame whatsoever. Poor Micah screaming for help, which every way, and was muted up until the very end. I will be prayed for the families, please. Same as I will be praying for JP to be honest in his dealings with his fellow man. It is interesting that the name of your church is Solid Rock. What happens to a rock when it is stressed? It bends and breaks, it fractures. It will never be the same. Wake up, people. This man should not be leading your church. He should not be counseling your marriages, teaching your children, nor should he be around them. Horrible acting jobs, such a sad loss, and beautiful, loving soul. I mean, there's more. It goes on and on. Now, Ashley Banfield has been reporting on this case like crazy. It's hard to keep up. Let me see. I've got some notes from some of her reports. Okay, so we got a lot of information from News Nation's interviews with Micah's sister and the family's lawyer the other night. Here's the short version. Micah's body was released to JP on April 30th. JP told the family that he wouldn't allow the family to see the body at the funeral home unless her parents first signed a certification of cremation. What innocent person behaves this way? Not only was it inhumane, but is suspicious. JP's ex-wife has teamed up with Micah's family to bring his abuse to light. She told News Nation herself that she got out just in time. We now know that the redacted name of who was stalking Micah in the court documents was in fact JP Miller. A video was uncovered via body camera footage of when the tracker was found on Micah's car at East Coast Honda. This body camera footage of JP harassing her at the dealership, Robeson County's investigating officer told the family themselves that her remains were not tested for water in the lungs or gunpowder residue on her body. Now, why wouldn't they test her hands for gunpowder residue? They also did not do an autopsy or toxicology report. Why? So has she been cremated? Does anybody know? Has she been cremated? Because I really would hope, and I think that even if the family couldn't afford it, that there is enough support for Micah by everybody that they would crowdsource and get an alternative autopsy and opinion done. Micah and her story, her life, all she endured on this short time on earth, she has touched my heart deeply as she has millions of other people. In life, she was surrounded by darkness and she had to continuously battle that was inflicted on her by another. She successfully fought to shine her light, share her love with all those she encountered. Micah was strong, courageous, unwavering in her love for Christ and for others. Micah is the epitome of grace, beauty, and walking in the footsteps of Jesus. This story is so sad. He may not go down for her murder because he was careful to make it look like she unalived herself, but hopefully he will be locked up for all the underage girls he's alleged. This is alleged, but she's not stating it as alleged. Underage girls he's slept with. What is done in darkness will come to light. Now, I haven't seen any proof of that. We do know that he groomed her, and she was very young at the time. I believe 10 is when it all started, and he was 14 years older than her. Hello, everyone, too, that has joined since we've started. Natasha, Lucia, good to see everybody. Now, these comments are on the celebration of life. Why did GP have Micah cremated? Okay, so apparently she has been cremated and it's done, which is unfortunate because, oh my gosh, she was cremated the 10th. So yesterday. That's unfortunate because now, besides the notes and Although I don't even know if there were, x-ray scans and notes that were taken because they're stating that he never got a full autopsy done. How will we get a difference in opinion? He comes off like a demon trying to act like a human. That's why it's hard for loving souls to vibe with and stay connected to him. I believe that's why Micah couldn't stay with him. I heard the recording asking if she was talking to her husband. She knew that whatever inhabiting him isn't her husband, or at least the husband she thought she had. I hope her sweet soul has finally found peace. Wow, he hated this woman. None of what he's saying about her is complimentary. People are telling him to get on his knees and repent. All right. Think we get the picture. I don't want to listen to him. Okay, the rumor mill says she was not cremated despite his wishes. Okay, again, rumor. He cremated her for a reason that she can't have a full testing. Right. Something's very odd whenever there's somebody pushing for the cremation. All right, so let's see what I want to play next. Again, I've picked some News Nation clips out that I want to. Should we watch JP and his little mental breakdown? Somebody has now shared. Says, I believe the saying goes, getting a taste of your own medicine. So somebody released this on the internet.
You okay? What's the matter? Huh? What's the matter?
Switch my medication. Makes me go crazy.
Is somebody helping you?
I think Mark's coming to get me.
Oh, okay.
I thought I was going to see Jesus.
Okay. But you got Mark coming?
Somebody called him, I think.
Okay.
I feel like he injured me. I can't
So-
want to see Jesus. Because he had biting me everywhere.
Is your medication something they gave you?
Yes, I'm a drug.
Yeah. You want me to make sure Mark's coming?
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny. I don't even the phone's on me.
But somebody's called him, right?
Yeah, the lady across the street called.
Okay. All right. Hey, JP. I think Mark is coming. I had him try to get in touch with him again to make sure. Is that okay? Huh?
So my understanding is this is not a recent video. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Yes, the video is from 2005, 2016. And the person who posted this and has released this to the public says, I believe the saying goes, getting a taste of your own medicine. And I mean quite literally. You have used and abused for way too long, only to get up on that pulpit and consistently discredit your victims by airing out unintentional, degrading, inappropriate personal information. Doing that allows you to control the narrative. Now we have the death of your wife that you claim only took her life because of mental illness. Fact is, nobody was ever mental until they met you. You are the common denominator in all of this. This video is only proof that you yourself have issues and you know what medication can do to somebody. So I think he's alluding to him being under some substance here and being in this state of mind. Perhaps they're saying that maybe she was under this same substance. Imagine being in a vulnerable state like this and being met with control, manipulation, and shame. What's the long-term effect on that? Now add abuse on top of that, all forms that may apply. Who can handle that? Yet you were met with a soft tone and water bottle that you didn't deserve. JP, I could have done this anonymously, but I want you to see it's coming from me so you don't go after anyone else. You know I've got receipts. You know I'm not scared. I've never met anyone like you, but I've learned that and been taught is people like you repeat their behavior, and every so often they slip up and show who they really are. Sometimes they even type it in an email. I think it's abundantly clear that you haven't been held accountable for any of your actions over the years, and I never hit the recycling bin. Okay, yeah, he doesn't deserve any sympathy. Hold on, I want to see the name of the video that Seth was talking about. Yeah, possibly.
There's no ants on you, though. It's just, maybe that's how you feel, but there's none on you. There's none on the grass. What kind of medicine do they have you on? All right, well, somebody's going to come, okay? Do I need to call 911? Do I need to call the medics? Yeah, we got somebody coming. You want some water or anything? You want some water? Yeah, he said okay if you got a little bottle of water.
For 3 cents asking what is the point of this, I think I just read the entire post of the person who shared this and explained what the point of this was. So if you missed that, it's probably like 2 minutes behind, which kind of explains the whole reason why this is being shared.
I don't know. I think they changed his medication or something, he said. And he said like ants was crawling on him and stuff. So I got somebody coming. Okay. Yeah. I live across the street. Back over here. Oh, okay. So. Well, let me know if I can do anything for you. Okay, I think he's. Here's some water, JP. You want some water? Okay. You want to try to sit up? You want to try to sit up, or you want to put it to your mouth, or what?
I'll be out in a few minutes if you need anything else.
Okay. Is that enough? You want more? I can't stop making noises in the morning when I wake up.
Okay, people who are joining, who are kind of confused what's going on, I've left up the post on the right side. The person who leaked this video, you can read it as it's being played right now. I've already read through it. This explains why we're sharing this.
Crazy. Always thought I wanted to get on medication, and this is what it does. Crazy. I can't eat, I can't sleep, I can't do nothing. Oh, I feel like I answered my eyes. Can't open up my eyes.
So some people think it's real, people think it's fake, some people think he's on prescription drugs, some people think he's on meth, mushrooms, acid. I mean, I don't know what's going on. I really don't, but I do like the message that was put along with it, the person who shared it. So that's why I shared it. Should we get into some News Nation stuff? Let's see this first. Fisherman who heard Micah Miller's cries, gunshot, upset over social media attacks. Johnny Jacobs, 55, said he's being unfairly bashed and targeted on social media in the days following the death of 30-year-old Micah Miller. Miller died on April 27th at Lumber River State Park. According to the Robeson County Medical Examiner's Office, Miller died from a self-inflicted gunshot. Jacobs said he had been fishing at the park for several hours on April 27th. He added he's fully cooperated with police investigation and told the absolute truth, and for that reason, he's being bashed on social media. I just happened to be there that day fishing, something that I love to do, and it's just got destroyed by this event, said Jacobs. But I would like for everyone to know that I had nothing to do with this. Jacobs said that he was fishing at the river when he heard a faint cry. He added 2 or 3 minutes later, he heard a gunshot, but couldn't see anything because of the trees blocking his view. So I'm not saying, now this is where I get into my little alternative theory and conspiracy. These faint cries, was it anything like we just heard JP crying? Like when people say that he drugged her and she did this because of drugs. Again, I'm not saying that that's my belief. I'm just exploring different theories, which is the whole reason why it says updates and alternative theories on the title of this video. Again, it's been put out there that possibly he had her on drugs, or I don't know. I don't know how that would have happened, again, because we see her leaving her apartment alone. I happened to hear a faint cry, a real faint cry, and I thought to myself, oh, I wonder what's going on. I couldn't tell if it was a male or female, so I just put it out of my mind. That maybe went on for maybe about 2 or 3 minutes, and then all of a sudden I hear a gunshot, and I said to myself, oh my God, don't tell me, because the crying had stopped. I said, don't tell me something's happened. Jacobs added he was getting ready to get out of there when he saw about 3 people at the lake on a boat. I plainly asked them, I said, do y'all hear the gunshot? They said, yes. I said, well, I heard crying. They said, well, we don't hear no one. I said, I heard the crying. Jacob said at that point, he noticed there was an open in the river where he could boat to see where the gunshot came from. Remind you now, I'm in a real small boat, a small boat. I can float in 3 inches of water, so I can only get my boat back up there. And I did. I went in to the opening and I went in there about 20 yards and I happened to look to the left. He added, that's when he saw some belongings on the bank. It was like a little fanny pack, backpack, whatever you call it, laying on up on the bank about 2 feet from the water. He said there was also a cell phone and glasses. Jacob said he got the items and didn't intentionally look in the bag, but when he did, he learned the belongings belonged to a person named Micah Miller. Jacob said he gave all the items to the deputies at the scene who were responding to a 911 call for the gunshot being fired. He added that he didn't know Micah and has no reason to lie to the police. He added all of the social media attacks against him are quite disturbing. They're cold. They've been cold to me. You wouldn't believe some of the stuff, which probably you have seen. There have been some terrible things talked about me. I mean, some terrible things. That's not me. That's not the person. Everybody that knows me knows that's not the person that I am. It's like putting my life in danger with some of the things that have been said, and some of the things that have been done. It's horrific. I'm the type of person that sticks to myself. This here has really shown me how people can be. This is the end of times as far as I'm concerned, and as far as the way people are acting. Jacob said he's seriously considering seeking legal help to stop the social media attacks because he feels like it's defamed his character, hurt his reputation, and slandered his name. He added that he just wants the baseless attacks and conspiracy theories to end, not just for him, but for Micah's family as well. I want this to stop. As far as me, I don't want this to be all about me because I'm still thinking about Micah, said Jacobs. I'm trying to respect her family. I got total respect for them, and I'm so sorry for what they are going through. I feel like I'm part of this family. I feel like I have lost a loved one. I mean, that's just how deep it is with me. None of my theories in my alternative theory include Johnny Jacobs being suspicious. This guy should realize most people who post on social media are scum. I wouldn't say most, but there are, a small portion. I try to look away from it. I try to focus on the people who are, sharing good things, not bad things. There are channels, and I mean, there's even mainstream media that posts things that are just, terrible. Scott, I was thinking the same thing. Spice, or what was that one thing? Salvia. Have you guys ever heard is that what it's called? Salvia. I know when I was in high school, people used to buy it like at a head shop. It was sort of like mushrooms, but very, very like intense. I never tried it myself, but I know that like I had friends that did it who would talk about their experiences, and it was much like that, like crying, and like they thought, something was going on that wasn't there. It was just like a really quick like hallucinogen, and it was legal. It's legal to buy. I don't know if it's still around. Tony's heard of it. PCP, perhaps. I mean, people think that they can fly when they smoke PCP. Very weird. So let's share some of this News Nation stuff. Now, I haven't seen all these, so I'm sorry if you guys have. It's just going to be me reacting to them live with you guys. And then once we go through the News Nation stuff, I can kind of talk a little bit about this alternative theory that I thought of. Again, it's not my belief. I'm not set in stone with it. But as an opposite opinion from what I did the other night, Tuesday night, on this theories. Now, though the theory on Tuesday was just he tormented her and pushed her to do this, and that was pretty much it. And people were saying, no, there's more. Obviously, I know that he groomed her. I know that there's shady dealings with money involved with the church. She was going to expose all that stuff. And so obviously she knew too much. So I know all that. But I just, okay, we'll get into these.
Exclusively by Micah's father, Michael Francis, and her big sister, Destiny Barrientos. Thank you to both of you. And may I just say I am so sorry to be meeting you under these circumstances. And my heart goes out to your family in dealing with what you are coping with. I cannot imagine being in your shoes. Michael, if I may begin with you, you feel that the investigation has been less than complete, to say the least, on Micah's death. What do you believe happened? What is your theory of how Micah died?
My theory of how Micah died. Well, I know he was pushed to the brink. I know that there is no reason for her to be out there in that area. We've never been there. She's never been there. I mean, my theory is broad right now. There's bruises on her hand. There's injury to her other arm, like a handprint. And these things were not documented, and they did not show up for no reason. And we were not satisfied with the answers that we were given in the entirety. It didn't seem like enough was done. And we just want more answers. We want more checking into this.
And Destiny, the investigators still have not released Micah's personal possessions, like her cell phone in particular, which is a pretty critical piece of evidence. Tell me why it is so important for the family to get those things back.
Micah had been gathering information to help with her divorce for quite a while, previous to her commitment to the hospital that was unwilling. She had all of her stuff on her phone at that time and her laptop. When she was committed against her will, John Paul had went to the hospital to pick up her items, deleted all of her information off of those items, and held them till they were past the date that we could recover anything. So it's very vital for us to get this cell phone that she currently had, because we do believe that there could be quite a bit of evidence on there.
Michael, one of the things that
Okay, earlier when we were talking, I said that there was a clip of him on some podcasts talking about, money for the church, and I just thought it was unusual. So I'm not going to share my screen with it because it's from a private Facebook group, but I will play the audio. So just imagine him talking on a podcast.
And absorb all of this. So what, if there's what sermon series would you maybe recommend for a baby Christian?
I'm going to say something. It might not be what anyone would think I would say, but so I think the most important subject, and this is just from my research, and I'm only 44, but I'm actually planning on preaching this at my funeral. When I die, I don't want someone else preaching my funeral. I want to preach my funeral, so I'm going to record my funeral message, and it'll be played when my body's laying there in the casket, because I think it's so important. And I don't want the funeral to be about me. I want it to be about something that I want everyone to take away, and take to God. I honestly think, and it's going to sound weird, I think the most important topic in the entire Bible, and the thing that every Christian, whether they're new, they've been saved for 20 years, everyone, I think the most important thing there is tithing. And I'll tell you why. I've studied human nature, I've studied America, and I've studied the Bible, and I've studied history. And everything points to the fact that money and the love of it is the root of all evil. Not money itself, but the love of it. And so I tell my children, the one thing I've instilled in them more than anything else, and the thing that I want to take and preach at my own funeral, is everybody needs to find a church and be a faithful tither, because the Bible says the number one thing that can steal your heart away from Jesus, away from your family, away from your mission in life is money. And it's the ultimate test to bring Jesus 10% of our income and not designate it. In other words, we have no control. It belongs to him. And the Bible says that where your treasure is, that's where your heart is. And so if someone's struggling with pornography, if they're struggling with negativity, if they're struggling with depression, if they're struggling with alcohol, whatever their struggle is, if they'll get their heart in the kingdom, then everything else will follow their heart. But the only way to get your heart there is for your money to be there.
And absorb all.
Isn't that just wild? And the caption says, he himself said that he says this and he tells on himself in his message. I'll just leave this right here. So say she knew too much about his business dealings or shady, money laundering or embezzlement, whatever you want to call it. This woman is saying, what is, something who's a new Christian or, somebody, a baby Christian, she calls it. And he says tithing. And like Paige said, tithing out of all things to be most important for a Christian. Okay. And like Seth said, like scam artist, oh boy, what a fraud. Of all things, like you would think that it would be share love one another, and don't judge people. But instead, yeah, like Beard Freak said, cult. Yeah. He wants to get that out there like, oh my gosh, Planet, right? I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, he wants to make sure that everybody knows that, 10% of your income, that's the most important thing as a Christian. And if you're a new Christian, make sure you're giving 10% of your income because, money is the root of all evil. Right. So then did that have anything to do with what happened with Micah? Right. How convenient. A pastor saying the most important thing is for you to give 10% of your income to the church. What makes the baby give him some money? What makes the baby give him some money from their piggy bank, Vulture? Right. All he thinks about is money. Right. So when it comes down to, did she know too much? Is there a reason why he pushed her to do this? And it's come out like her sister said, like there were things that she was lining up for her divorce to follow through and to expose him in ways that, would favor her in the divorce. Right. And those church people gave it to him. Professional grifter, in my opinion. Yep. And that's why, like, some of this live stream, like, he might not be charged criminally. They released the investigation this week. It doesn't seem like there's going to be another autopsy that the family is going to pay for and do. That's it. But when it comes to, auditing him and stuff like that, like he definitely could go down and in civil court, I believe.
I think has stuck with a lot of people is that Micah met John Paul when she was in the youth ministry in the church, when she was just 14,
right.
And he was a leader in the church. That did not escape a lot of people. Ultimately, they ended up married. But is there something that you and the family know or feel or believe about Micah's claim that she was being groomed from the time she was a child?
Absolutely. Yes, her demeanor changed over time, and she became more and more compressed, less and less of herself. And as soon as they got married, her behavior went downhill fast as far as being her lively, jovial self. And she seemed to be more sad, more under control, and didn't seem to be her free self, didn't seem to be able to accomplish things she wanted to without him causing them to end. She would do something amazing and he would shut it down and would not repeat function. I just believe he really compressed her. I really believe that he just sucked the life right out of her and caused her to go downhill from the moment after they got married, the moment after he forced her to have a certain surgery. And she had a violent reaction from the anesthesia. And he took advantage of that.
What kind of surgery are you saying he forced her to have?
I would rather not say.
Okay, I understand. But I do want to pull on that thread a little. Do you believe that John Paul Miller had inappropriate sexual contact with Micah before she was legally allowed to be in that kind of a relationship? Do you think there could be charges in terms of the age difference between them?
Right. I'm unaware of anything that occurred when she was still a young teen, 14 or so.
Jay says, hopefully there's at least proof of his embezzling, or maybe someone he paid to do dirty work may have a heart and give an anonymous tip about possible evidence. It's a long shot, but you never know. Right. And there might not be somebody who, you know, he paid to do the dirty work, but we can't say that 100% at this point, in my opinion. I'm open to all theories. I really am. Yeah, the bruises on Micah's arms, like it's all very strange. It really is. And my theory still is that it seems like he tortured her to the point that she did this to herself, but I am open to other ideas. And I have an open mind, and that's why I kind of set aside some other theory that I want to share after these clips. So apparently he, encouraged her to get breast implants. He's not the first husband to encourage that, from what I see. And even if he didn't hire somebody else that kind of helped do to the dirty work, I think that there's enough to stand on for the family to push for a wrongful death lawsuit in civil court.
Destiny, do you have anything? I'm not sure.
As far as him reaching out to her and continuously texting her while she was a teen, he convinced her to get away from our family during her teens, told her that he would find different households for her to live in within the church to get her away from our family, as well as he helped her get a car and told her to find adults and tell them stories that they could trust, to get her away from our family. And that.
Okay, what does that mean? He told her to find adults and tell them stories. Hold on. What does that mean?
And told her to within the church to get her away from our family, as well as he helped her get a car and told her to find adults and tell them stories that they could trust, to get her away from our family. And that's how he initially isolated her during her teens.
Does anyone know what that means? Told her to find adults and tell them stories to get her away from the family? I don't get that. I need clarification on that, because that could play into my alternative theory, quote unquote.
And told her to find adults and tell them stories that they could trust, to get her away from our family. And that's how he initially isolated her during her teens.
Do you think, Destiny, that he was having a sexual relationship with her when she was underage?
That I can't lay any claim to. I'm not exactly sure to the extent of their relationship at that time, other than the getting her away from the family, getting her to talk to other people, and putting her in homes of other family members. But that is when I believe that the initial grooming did start.
And Destiny.
Okay, so many people in chat are kind of explaining the same thing. It's back when she was a kid, how he got her away from her family. Somebody said, I'm guessing to spread false information about her family and why she should leave, so he could pick her up. False accusations, control, to lie to cover his ASS, to lie to her family. He coached her on how to cover up the abuse. Yes, this is the sister, Legendary, and it's good to see you. Sounds like he told her to lie about their family so that she could get sympathy and move in with someone else so he could groom her. So this kind of plays into, and Jay, if you remember our conversation the other night after my live, made up stories. He wants her to make up stories to push some sort of agenda. So keep that in mind when I tell you guys like an alternative theory, possibly. Again, I'm not saying that the alternative theory is fact or true. I'm just thinking outside the box. Lies to isolate her and control her. Stories about being abused by her family. Interesting. So that could possibly be evidence in a way that he had got her to say things to people and keep this in mind, to say things to people in order to manipulate people, right? So that JP could get what he wanted, right? And he's used Micah to kind of do that. So keep that in mind.
Just describe some of the changes that you saw in your sister after she married John Paul.
Micah was so full of life. She was funny and energetic, someone that just lit up every room that she walked into. And once they were together, especially for that first initial couple years, I mean, she just deteriorated. She was not herself. You could see that maybe she was starting to, you could see just the downfall in her personality as far as becoming sad or trying to put on a mask to not let people in of her own private, from what I'm finding out, on her own private hell.
Michael, is there a chance that you and your family will launch any kind of civil litigation against John Paul Miller, whether it's wrongful death or whether it's an encouragement for the police to launch criminal charges for anything they may discover in the evidence that we've been able to unearth, the stalking and the harassment, the physical evidence and the admissions and the emails, even to our producer, that he had done those things?
Absolutely. We're going to push for every law that can help and push for laws that don't even exist yet. We need a lot of support. We need people that can help write new laws if necessary, and staff this situation to springboard forward and protect Micah and also protect anybody else in the future. And we'll definitely pursue that. Wrongful, everything is.
So this interview came out after the Tuesday live stream where I basically said, like, yes, they absolutely have a leg to stand on in civil court for wrongful death. And they can lay out all the torment that he put on her to kind of push her to the brink of her death.
Caused terrible pain and tragedy throughout this.
Michael, what was the last conversation you had with your daughter, Micah?
It was about, it was the day before, gosh. It was basically about how things were going. I was talking with her about music, and we wanted to do some recording, and she just absolutely had no signs of anything drastic in her life that would be that bad. She did mention that she was feeling some depression, and she was didn't understand. She didn't understand why this pressure was coming back, because she was feeling better and better the longer she was away from John Paul. And I believe it's due to the stalking and the slashing her tires and causing her just pressure, as she felt like she had to look over her shoulder all the time. So she felt like she needed a weapon to protect herself. So, this is not normal. She was not in a situation where we would think, oh, we need to be watching her, or, I left, she was doing fine. She had a job, she was moving forward. And then suddenly, here we go. Here we are.
Michael Francis and Destiny Barrientos, thank you so much for being on the program and sharing this information.
Okay, moving right along, and thank you, Sarcasm for Fun, for sharing that in chat, so I could pull it up on the screen for any replay viewers as well. And I've said on the last stream, if anyone's feeling like they're in that situation, reach out to me, reach out to anyone on this channel. We're all here for you.
Your investigative reporter, Rich McHugh, who has been digging into this story for us all week long. Rich, there is this incredibly important sort of stalking report. And we were talking about it quite a bit after we discovered that Micah had taken her life. It talks about a tracker being put on her car. It talks about her tires being slashed. It talks about this device being jabbed into her tires to let the air out. It talks about a man showing up at a gas station, then following her to a car dealership, and that man's name was redacted all the way through. Last night, we learned the man's name was actually John Paul Miller, the estranged husband, the man who everybody had pointed to as the cause of all of this prior to finding out it was a suicide. But now we actually have an email from him when he's admitting to some of this behavior. What have you found out?
So we've come into a lot of information that has been sent to the police, and that's the key thing here, because people are wondering, okay, so what are police to do with all of these allegations Do they even know? And now we know that her family has forwarded all of this information to the police. One of the things that is included in these documents is an apology email from him to Micah on April 15th of this year, which is about 12 days before she died. In it, he writes, "I'm sorry for damaging your car, tires, etc. If you ever come back, I will turn in both cars and get you a nice SUV or whatever car you want. Again, my horrible flesh pattern of hurting someone when they hurt me." So there you have it. He's kind of outing himself.
And I'll give you something shiny and new if you just come back to me. Boy, if I had a dime, Rich, for every time I've seen an abusive relationship like that. So JP, actually, Mr. Miller, John Paul Miller, Pastor Miller, has been having conversations with you via, texting back and forth. And if I understand this correctly, he has also admitted directly to you that he's the person who put the tracker on the car.
That's right. That's right. So earlier this week, I believe it was Monday, I engaged with him and he started talking back with me kind of unprovoked. And I also want to read this because this thing stood out to me when I read it at the time. I didn't really know it. He said, this is JP to me, I even hired a PI to put trackers on her car to know if she was going to a gun store because she kept trying to get a gun for the past few months. I have never once in my entire life ever hurt her in any way, ever.
So how convenient, he puts the tracker on her car so that he can, find out if she's getting a gun. Now there's so many people who think she was getting that gun for self-protection. I don't think that the tracker had anything to do with him monitoring if she was going to a gun store for her protection. That's my personal opinion.
I was just communicating with him on text, drawing him out, and he kept texting and texting and texting. I've officially asked him for an interview. His attorney has, of course, said no, but that's where it stands.
That's pretty glaring, admitting to that. Okay, the next thing is that he apologized for something else. And this was something we were unsure of. There were allegations that Micah had been threatened, that a topless photo of her would be posted on the internet. And now.
So this is where I kind of got the idea for the thumbnail of, it just keeps getting worse. I was like, what kind of pastor would do this? I mean, we've already confirmed that he's a false prophet. He does that himself. He kind of makes it clear that he's a false prophet. I don't know why he still has support. He has stepped down from the church as pastor, from my understanding, but it seems as though he, still holds himself to a high regard, since in her celebration of life ceremony, he's speaking about, I thought that I could raise her from the dead. Like, no, you don't have that power, quote unquote.
He is admitting that it was him. He was the one making those threats.
Yes. So this goes back to this apology letter that we have. It's an apology letter from him to Micah, dated April 15th. In it, he's apologizing for a series of things, and one of them is a photo that was produced on the internet. It was topless of her. We're not going to show that here, of course, but in the apology, he says, "I'm sorry for putting a picture of you on the internet. It was for less than 1 hour and immediately taken down. I was hurt that you were telling everyone horrible, intimate details of my past sin, and I just wanted to try and hurt you. Please forgive me. It was evil of me to do that."
Oh, so yeah, it's only up there for an hour. Like, that doesn't have life elsewhere when people download naked photos and they live forever. And I'm sorry, but there's the but.
Yes, Jay. He posted a topless photo of her publicly. So keep that in mind, because we've already gone through, and a lot of people have shown him during his sermons, kind of, talking about like, yeah, and then I go through her phone and there's men texting her, like, let me know if there's anything I can do to help. And, so he's basically painting his wife as like texting men behind his back. He's, told the whole congregation about her mental problems and her needing medication. It's something that they've always dealt with and had to deal with. So please keep it in mind that not only has he publicly shamed her during his sermons in front of his congregation, but he's also shamed her on the internet for posting a nude photo of her. So keep that in mind when we get to after these clips and updates to the alternative theory.
Like that's again just a classic pattern that you often see. So you have also seen text messages between John Paul Miller and Micah's family. What were in those text messages?
Some of the text messages I've seen were pictures of text chains where her family was communicating, and Micah was on there. But Micah, this was at a time where I believe she was in the hospital, and so the Micah jumps into the conversation and said something like "Happy Valentine's Day" to me, and I believe her mother or a relative says, "Micah, is that you?" And it was quickly figured out that this was not Micah. This was JP. That he had possession of the phone, and it was his interpretation, legal interpretation, that it was marital property. And so this is just one of a number of instances. You know, he took over her Facebook page. Her brother took it back, and her sister took it back and said, "Hey, this account has been taken over. Do not post." There's a lot here. There's a lot here, actually.
Like, I mean, marital property, sure, but communicating as someone else is not marital property. You can't just grab a marital property telephone and then pretend to be like there's a distortion if I've ever heard one. So Micah herself wrote something before she died, a document of sorts. Did you get your hands on it, and what's in it?
Yes. So this is a letter that she wrote 2 days after this apology letter, if I have this correct, and roughly 9 days before she died. It was a letter to for the courts in part of her divorce court proceedings, and it's a hard thing to read. I'll just be completely honest. She lays out like the entire case of why she's leaving him and what has happened to her. I just want to read a snippet of it. I don't even know if we have it, but her opening sentence is, "Since the day we became husband and wife, I have been abused in every way I can think of, emotionally, sexually, spiritually, financially, and physically. He has harassed me physically and electronically with letters, phone calls, emails, texts, hacking my emails, hacking my personal Facebook, and impersonating me, using my stolen phone to send texts and emails out to church members." It goes on and on and on. "Installing tracking devices on my vehicle, on my godmother's vehicle. The trackers were found on March 11th, March 14th, March 24th, April 15th. All of these have been documented and reported to the police." That's the key here, actually, is that the police
what I wanted
have
to
all
ask.
this information.
But the police have all this. They have the letter, they have the incidents, they have police reports. Did they do anything about it?
I've reached out to all the police agencies today. I only heard back from one of the agencies that was the lead agency investigating her death in North Carolina. Keep in mind, she's from South Carolina. She died in North Carolina. They kind of passed the buck. They said, "This is not related to her death. You need to contact the police agencies in South Carolina." I have, and I haven't heard back.
So the police are passing the buck, saying this has nothing to do with her death. Now, we talked about a civil wrongful death lawsuit, and the father basically says, like, yeah, we're gonna push for anything we can. This is kind of giving me flashbacks of Gabby Petito case and how Gabby's family went after the Moab Police Department in Utah for doing that traffic stop. You know, there was evidence of abuse. Even on Gabby's face, you could see the slap mark. They discussed it on the body camera and they let them go. And there was nothing that was really done by the police. And the family, I believe, won that lawsuit. Now, when it comes to this police department, could the family press charges against them and say more should have been done to protect her, to create barriers and protection against her ex while they were going through their divorce? That will be interesting to see. I'm curious your guys' thoughts. Do you think that maybe the family can press charges against the police department for not really taking anything seriously that it seems she was kind of pushing for? Micah, I mean.
So it'd be interesting to see what they do respond, because from what I can tell, from what I can gather from the conversations with her family, and you're about to speak to them directly, but they'd like to see some charges come from these past incidences. Like there's questions about legally, what lines were crossed here, and it seems to me
at least
there may have been some.
I mean, just at least that an investigation has been going on, right? With all of these reports and all of this evidence. Rich McHugh, amazing digging on this. Just really terrific reporting. Thank you so much for this. Thank you for watching. Go to News Nation now.
Okay, one more 6-minute News Nation clip I want to share and watch. Haven't watched it all, so I'm just kind of gathering the information with you guys live. And then we'll just kind of discuss an alternative theory that I think is possible. Again, not stating it as fact or that I truly believe it 100%, but we got to think outside the box. There's a lot of people who think there's more to this. There's a lot of people who even think she didn't do this to herself.
We're learning that Micah tried several times over the years to leave her husband, John Paul, but for one reason or another was always drawn back. Just last year, she fled to Kansas, where her family lives, and that's where my next guest met her. Shaylin French met Micah at a woman's church group. Great to have you here. You bonded with Micah when she came to Kansas to be with her family and get away from her husband. What did she tell you about him?
She told our group that the things that I recognized were she told us how much older he was than she was. She mentioned how his kids were close to her age. And then because of this shared experience that we had, I also had an abuser from when I lived in North Carolina. And that was when we instantly connected. And I think she just knew I needed help. So she's stuck by me and listened to me. She mentioned that her husband would make her watch unholy acts.
I'm sorry, her husband would what?
Make her watch unholy acts. She didn't go deeper into it. When she talked about the abuse to us or claiming that her husband wasn't kind to her, we got watered down versions, and it was almost like she was questioning if she was being abused at all. You could tell she was still halfway in denial of everything that was happening.
Was it clear to you that you thought she...
Yes. In fact, she mentioned how he talked about mental health and she was struggling with mental health. But when she was in Kansas with us, she was so excited to be seeing a therapist, taking care of her own mental health. She was excited to get on the right medications. She was sane. She was happy. She was willing to start a new life. She was wanting to jump in like ahead at everything, mission trips, the worship team, which is where we met and we bonded. She was willing to live.
Did she give you any other details about what her husband would do or say to her that you thought was abusive besides watching? I'm guessing you mean pornography of some kind. What else would she tell you that happened?
She was very worried that he would follow her.
And that he had in the past?
Right. Very, very worried that she was going to get followed. And so she was staying with her sister, and I would rather not reveal that town for her safety, but about an hour away. Yes. She was in a nearby town staying, and she hung out more with where I am from because she wanted to make sure that she was safe and with people and with the community just in case she was found.
And was she excited to start a new chapter in life? Was she relieved and happy to be away from her husband? I'm trying to get a sense of what her mental state was.
Yeah, when she first came, she described it as a trial separation. And then later on, she was saying, I'm trying to separate from my husband. She was excited. She was ready. She was planning trips with us. We have a lot of domestic violence and sexual assault survivors in our it wasn't a women's group. It's just a mixed group of individuals for like a small group Bible study. We were all ready and planning to go on outings with her for all of our healing. And then all of a sudden, she was gone.
Right. After just a few months, Micah left Kansas very suddenly to return to John Paul. She sent you this text message, which read in part, "It is a miracle. My husband has asked me to come home and be reconciled. I'm leaving today." To which you responded in part, "That's wonderful news. I hope you two are able to work things out," adding, "I'm praying your husband understands your worth and sees your value as a woman." Were you surprised?
Yes. I was very surprised. All of us were, all 5 of us females that were in this group and close to her got the same message. So we looked around at each other and unfortunately kind of joked, blink twice if you need help. In the end, she needed help. After the story broke, we had no idea just how bad it was. Otherwise, we would have fought to keep her here.
How did you hear that she had died by suicide?
TikTok.
You heard on TikTok?
I found out through TikTok and had to inform the rest of my friends. I think he had her, because we never heard from her again. I think he had her so far removed from all of us that we never heard from her again. And in fact, one of the males who was also in contact with her, his text message that he got said, "Don't ever contact this number again."
What was your reaction, Shaylin, when you heard?
Tears, upset. This was someone who had gone through very similar situations that I had gone through. This is the person that even 7 years later, after my incident, was validating me, was listening to me. She was a godsend in my life, and I was not well. That's the best way to put it. I was not okay, and I knew after everything I heard about JP, he had to have some involvement. I didn't know how. He may have not pulled that trigger, but he definitely drove her there. And hell would be a nice place for him to go. In fact, purgatory would be a better place for him to go, so he can think and mentally abuse himself just like he did Micah and his other victims.
Shaylin French, you obviously loved her. This must be hard news.
Yeah. And Lulu in chat says, we need to find out how many people from the police department. I want to know how many members of the sheriff's department are also members of that church. The other thing I'd like to know too is, that's my understanding too, he was a porn addict, and we read that disturbing post where he said wives should never reject their husbands. We also need to find out if there was life insurance on Micah. I think that's another thing that needs to be kind of ironed out. So yeah, those for sure. So the other night, after we discussed, how I believed that he pushed her to this level by tormenting her, etc., we went through it all in my live stream the other night. It's there if you guys want to watch it. A lot of people were saying, no, there's no way she did this. A lot of people to this day think there's no way that she did this. I'm curious in chat, do you guys think that she pulled the trigger herself? Press 1. If you think that maybe somebody else is involved, press 2. I just want to get like a feel for where we're at. Because the other night people were like, no way she did this. I'll never believe she did this herself. And I was just kind of like, well, I mean, then who? Because they've cleared his alibi. They cleared his alleged girlfriend's alibi. And then E.E. Caroline is telling me his alibi is too convenient. He goes out of town the night that all this happens to Micah. And I was like, well, I mean, he went for a sporting event. Like, what's so suspicious about that? Then I start thinking about it, like, too obvious of an alibi. Like, I guess I could see that angle. So I'm just exploring that angle. So I see 2, 2, 1. Legendary forgot the choices. Choices are 1, she did it herself. 2, somebody else pulled the trigger. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Oh my gosh, guys. Again, no judgment. I'm trying to iron this out. Debbie says 1, 1, 1. Both, I think he could have been involved and not pulled the trigger. So that could also go into a theory of she was drugged on something, or, she wasn't in the right state of mind, but not from her own will. Again, this is also a reach. We don't know. 1, but he pushed her to the edge, right? 2, 2, 2. I would say the 2s outweighed the 1s. I feel she was forced to do it by someone else, or someone else did it. Interesting. Beard Freak says 1. All right. So now that we've gone through the updates, gone through what everyone kind of thinks, I feel she was manipulated in some way. Right. I will never believe that Debbie Collier lit herself on camera. Um, no, and okay, sarcasm, that's the thing too. You guys were telling me that over and over in chat. No one calls 911 when they're about to K themselves. And I questioned, why is she making sure 911 knows her location when her phone was found beside the bank? They could have pinged her phone and found her location. They could have found her car sitting there and tracked the registry and realized that that's where she was. So many other ways. And then also, people were saying in chat, typically women don't do this with a gun. They'll go out a different method. Guns are statistically lower on the list for ways for them to kind of do this to themselves. So I kept that in mind too in my little alternative theory. The only thing that I kind of kept going back to was, she had made comments to when they went on that missionary trip to Africa. She told people that she had done this previous or gotten a gun, felt like she was going to do this in the past. The gun jammed and she took that as a sign from God, right? And I kept going back to, well, I mean, she has openly admitted to people that she has held a gun to her head in the past. And that, to me, it was kind of like, well, I mean, that's kind of a nail in the coffin, in my opinion. Like, she's openly admitted to it and, the gun jammed. But then I started thinking about it. And earlier when we listened to, so Pointer Lover says, I'm sorry to hear that too. My cousin called 911 before he did it. And I don't have any firsthand experiences, obviously, or I would have shared it. Teacup also says, I had a friend who let people know she was doing it. A lot of people have wondered why she didn't leave a letter for her family. Yeah, he coached her to tell stories to people. So that's kind of where I'm going with this as well. And the father basically, the sister said that in the segment earlier when we listened to it, that, when he was grooming her to get her away from their family, that he had, told her to tell stories to get her away from them and to seclude her. So again, I'm not saying that this is true, and I hope people aren't offended, but I go back to the whole, she tells people in Africa on the missionary trip that she held a gun to her head, wanted to do it, and then realized that the gun jammed and it was a sign from God. Now, thinking outside the box, what if that story wasn't true? What if he coached her to say that to kind of, get people to join their church or do their mission that they were doing down there, or, to follow them and be the leaders that they were trying to be to these people down there? Again, that would insinuate that she lied, but the sister has said in the past that he has told her to tell lies, to go along with the narrative that fit themselves. So when I go back over things and I'm thinking about, well, I mean, she admitted to people that she did this in the past. I start to realize, like, well, maybe that wasn't even true. Maybe that was just simply said to the people on that missionary trip to kind of make them realize, like, God can help you too in situations and never feel like you're alone, blah, blah, blah. And, that would paint them as these leaders to the people on that trip that, like, oh, wow, like they've been at a low point and they came through. So that kind of was my theory for that, to explain that. Lisa, member again. I feel like this is like your 10th time canceling and joining. Thanks for joining. Do you know how she got the gun so quickly? Not sure. I'm not sure. So that was sort of where, because I kept going back to, like, okay, so if there's more to this story, I mean, she's openly admitted it to people. Well, what if that story wasn't true? And now that that story is not true, and JP knows that, time has gone by and he's realizing, like, well, I can use that against her. people will think, I could make something happen involving a gun with her. And people will remember that she had openly admitted to people on that missionary trip that she had tried to do this to herself before. And no one's going to know that actually wasn't a true story except me. So he uses it to his advantage. I'm also hearing that she recently paid a car payment, like right before, like the week that this happens as well. Like, who would bother with the car payment? That to me is suspicious. Like I said, that people have said that his alibi is too convenient. He's conveniently out of town with his friends when she does this. Just reading my notes, guys. Perhaps, maybe he hired someone. He's already, told his whole congregation that there is evidence of her, having mental issues before. So it kind of goes back to this whole, was somebody in the congregation seeing JP as the victim and thinking, if I help out my pastor, this will help me get to heaven. Or, JP is painting her as like almost a cheater in some of his sermons, texting other men. In the email we read last time in the live stream, he says, JP to Micah, I even considered having children with you. And then I realized, well, since you're not on meds anymore, or something like that. So he has it in email form that she's on medication, so she's unwell. It's like so convenient that he has like laid out there that she's got problems. She's used a gun previously, but it jammed. People were thinking that was a fake story anyways, because how does the gun jam? Now, we do know that guns can jam, but it's just, I'm not really sure. You know what I mean? Was that a true story? So yeah, somebody in the congregation, what if they decided like, yes, I can help you out with this, pastor, and they might feel like they'll get to heaven for doing it, helping them. If he confided in someone about the divorce and he was talking we already know that he was talking in his sermons about guys texting her. He's laying the narrative out publicly. Like I said, that the story to the African mission trip or whatever about her trying to do it to herself and the gun jammed, maybe that was supposed to be a story to sound inspirational and make people turn to their, group, cult, church, whatever you want to call it. So the husband uses how he publicly spoke about it to his advantage here, because he knew the truth that the story about the gun jamming was made up because he had told her and coached her to say it. But now he also knows she's admitted to doing something like that in the past, which lays out the groundwork for him to take the steps to make this all look like a fake unaliving. Again, don't know if this is true. I'm just saying, what if, so I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? I mean, he has openly said in his sermons, like he's insinuated that she was texting other men, painting himself as the victim. Old, dirty, unused guns jam. Most gun owners don't keep weapons in that condition. And why is she out buying another gun if she already had a gun in her possession before? Oh, thank you, Sarcasm for Fun, for becoming a member. I appreciate that. Yes, Beach Bum, he had her committed, and we heard in those clips from the family that was against her will. So it wasn't like she was on board with it. So that also lays the groundwork for having a trail of like, see, look, we've had issues. Oh, man. And then again, I feel that it all could have been set up and made it look like she self-harmed herself in the end, right? And the theory that 911 call was they do require background checks. Okay, then how did this get missed if she had been admitted? Yeah, they've tried to say stuff about she might have felt that shame for divorcing because it goes against religion. It's a sin, but so is unaliving yourself. So I don't know, guys. What do you think? If somebody was desperate enough to help the pastor out, sees him as like this victim, I think that that's totally possible. Especially if he still has people supporting him to this day. Yeah, I don't get that. How did that happen? Maybe the gun store, the pawn shop did something wrong too, and they shouldn't have sold it to her. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm sure it'll be looked into. I don't think federal law requires background checks because I'm pretty sure in Florida a felon can get a gun the same day, they walk in the store and they grab it. Pretty sure. Yeah, like just very interesting. So I don't know what you guys think. So my alternative theory is he has laid out the groundwork publicly in his sermons by getting her committed as well, by speaking as if, he's the victim and she's texting other men during their marriage. Maybe some poor sap in the congregation felt like, I'm going to help the pastor out. I'm going to help him any way I can. He gets that person to help them out. They create this AI 911 fake phone call. And the story about the gun jamming and her saying that she tried that before in the past was actually made up. Another story that JP kind of came up with for her to say on that missionary trip to help group in more people and have them turn to Christ, whatever. Just curious what you guys think. Okay, so Google search says background check. Federal law requires federally licensed firearm dealers, but not private sellers, to initiate a background check on the purchaser prior to the sale of the firearm. So does that mean, like, is a pawn shop a private seller, or are they a licensed firearm dealer? Does FBI do background checks on gun purchases? When someone tries to buy a firearm, the seller, known as a Federal Firearms License, FFL, contacts the FBI. The prospective buyer fills out the required form, and the FFL sends the information to the FBI. We perform background checks on the buyer to verify eligibility. What disqualifies you from owning a gun in the U.S.? Under federal law, people are generally prohibited from purchasing or possessing firearms if they have been convicted of a felony or some domestic violence misdemeanors, or if they have subject to certain court orders related to DV or serious mental illness condition. So I don't know. Don't know what fell through the cracks with the pawn shop. You will need to fill out and sign an ATF Form 4473 firearms transaction that attests you in the legal eligibility to purchase a gun. The gun dealer will review your information and then run it through the federal FBI National Instant Criminal Background Check database for criminal background checks. So she didn't have a criminal record, from my understanding. Was she ever diagnosed with a serious mental condition? I don't know. Right. She was committed to the hospital by him. So I don't know. Okay, thank you, Johnny. Pawn shops are background checkers. They are not private dealers. I'm sorry, Bean Bio Girl. I didn't go live yesterday, and Roxanne was telling me, like, you need to tell people that you're not going to go live. I'm like, sorry. I wasn't feeling good. It's really, I have like the Tuesday, Thursday, Friday schedule, but since the pregnancy, like, I just don't, every day is different. I'll feel like really blah and just like, I can't go live, or I'll feel like, okay, I'm going to stick to my schedule and go live. So I'm sorry. That's why I kind of did this like random Saturday to make up for last night not being on. I get like the worst headaches from the hormones. Tony feels like there's other people connected. Okay, Christina, enjoy your workout. Okay, pawn shops are FFLs. Yes, absolutely. So I just don't know. Background checks for mental health issues mostly notes court ordered lockup for mental reasons. Ordinary mental health visits are hidden due to HIPAA rules, I figure. That makes sense. All right, guys. I don't know. I'm curious what you guys are thinking. Um, do you think that maybe somebody, again, we don't, this is just a theory. Did someone listen to his sermons where he's mouthing her and talking about her mental illness and think, I want to help out the pastor any way I can, and helped this take place? And there's somebody else out there, or, just let me know what you're thinking. Yes, pregnancy. I announced it on Thursday night for the Watts live stream, but yeah. I don't think she was diagnosed. She was involuntarily committed and held because JP controlled her health decisions. Yeah. So it seems like nothing would have come up for her filling out this background check. She was on a 48-hour hold, not admitted. Thank you, Bean Bio Girl. All right, guys. So I don't know. There's just a lot going on. I still am kind of under the impression that he had kind of led her to this. I think that there's accountability to be held against JP civilly with a wrongful death lawsuit. But it seems as though, I don't know. I can't say it 100%, but because a lot of people are still under the impression that she didn't do this and she didn't pull the trigger. So I want to keep it open to different theories. Is there somebody else out there? Was that story about her trying to do this to herself in the past a made up story that JP, came up with for her and then used it to his advantage years down the line to create this narrative to say, see, told you, she's done this before. Thank you, Sarcasm for Fun, for the super chat. I appreciate that. But I still feel like I need to apologize if you guys are looking for me to be live and I'm not. So I feel like at this point, hopefully, now I'm in the second trimester, things will look up. But it's been rough. So if I'm not live, I'll be live soon. I'll still be here as soon as I can. Seth says, stay tuned, more to come, I'm sure. And thank you guys. I really appreciate it. And we'll talk soon. We'll be watching the updates. Let me check Twitter right now to see if there's anything new since we looked a couple minutes ago. If you haven't hit that like button and subscribed, please do so. I appreciate it. Oh my gosh. All right, hold on. Let me share this. This is on Twitter from JLR. Says Pastor Miller once told his Solid Rock Church congregation that ladies talked bad about him driving a Dukes of Hazzard General Lee car, so he sold it. He then said he should have ran them over.
One day, for some reason, this group of ladies in church at the time, they started talking bad about me, and they said, "We don't want a pastor that drives a flashy car. We don't like that. That's not right." So I felt so guilty about it. I ended up selling my General Lee just to please those ladies. They ended up leaving church a few weeks afterwards anyway. I could have run over them with my General Lees. I should have done. But anyway, I thought, okay, whatever.
What in the heck? And then people are laughing. I just can't believe the support that this guy had even before this whole Micah situation. The stuff he says during his sermons, like I would walk, like, we're never going back there again. Like, just evilness seeping through. And he says there's always a little bit of truth when people joke, in my opinion. Yes, happy Mother's Day. I was going to go live tomorrow, and then I was like, wait a minute, no, it's Mother's Day. Yes, thank you, Melissa Jade. She said, thank you all for being here with us. Don't forget to leave your DNA on the like button. So we will talk very soon, guys. Appreciate all your guys' support. Yeah, it's not funny at all. I'm still following Sebastian Rogers, Karen Reed trial. A lot of stuff going on with those cases. So in addition to Micah's case, again, there's no criminal charges. So we're just kind of in limbo, waiting to see what's going to happen, if anything will happen. Hopefully there's something to be done with JP, but we'll have to wait and see. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers, and we'll talk very soon. Bye, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday.